As for the doctor, a brief instance of peace and friendship that had been granted to him was not repeated. There were open new hospitals, and Ryu had no further private talks except with his patients. He did note, however, that this stage of the epidemic, when the plague was increasing, adopting the palliatory form, patients seemed in a way to help the doctor. Instead of giving way to the proportions of the madness in the early days, they seemed to have a better idea of their own interests, and demand that their own accords in what be most beneficial to them. They continually asked for water and wanted heat. Although the doctor felt some tiredness, he did feel less alone in these circumstances. Towards the end of December, Ryu received a letter from Othone, exclaiming the magistrate who was still in his camp. The letter said that his period of quarantine was over, and the camp authorities could not find a date for his interments, and that surely he was being kept in the camp by mistake. His wife, who had been out for some time, protested to the prefecture that she was given short shifter and that they told the mistake was never made. Ryu got Rambert to intervene, and a few days later Othone arriving, and indeed been a mistake, and Ryu was slightly indignant about it. But Othone, who had grown thinner, raised the limp of his hand and said deliberately that anyone could make a mistake. The doctor felt something had changed. "What are you going to do, Judge? Your files await you," said Ryu. "Well, no," said the magistrate. "I'd like to take a holiday." "Yes, certainly, you need the rest." "That was not it. I want to go back to the camp." Ryu was astonished. "But you just come out." "I have explained myself properly. I just told them where the volunteers from the administration of the camp." The magistrate rolled his eyes a little and tried to flatten his truffled hair. "You see, it would give me something to do, and then, through the sound of stupid, I would feel less separated from my little boy." Ryu looked at him, and was impossible for some tenderness feeling that had endured those hard, flatty eyes, but they had become more misty and lost their metallic purity. "Yes, of course," he said. "I'll see to it if that's what you really want." The doctor did indeed take care of it, and the life of the plague-ridden town resumed course until Christmas. True continued to display an effect of calm everywhere. Robert confined with the doctor that he had managed through 2 young guards to set them up with a system of Calatine Cortins, and his wife, who received a letter occasionally. He invited Ryu to take advantage of the system, and the doctor agreed. He wrote for the first time in many long months, but found it extremely difficult. There was a language that he had forgotten. The letter left, and a long time before a reply came. For his part, Kotar prospered in the little suspicion to making him rich, and for Gran, the holiday period was not to be successful for him. Christmas was the year for most of the feast of the hell, in which coming of Christ. Empty until shops and the fake chocolates of the empty boxes in the windows. Passing tramps looked at the dark figures, nothing of the recall of Christmas in the past. At these times, when everybody rich and poor joined together, there was no place now except for the solidarity shameful celebrations, and some dingy back room, and the privileged few brought for themselves the hug expense. The churches were filled with wailing and sobbing rather than thanksgiving. In this somber, icy town, few children ran about, still ignorant of what awaits them. But no one dared to tell them that God had formed times and laden of offspring, and that the old human suffering yet was as new as the freshest hope. There was no longer a place in one's heart except for the single very old and the very sad hope. Some of the prevalent men from giving way to death, in which was more than the simplest abstained determination to live. On the previous day, Gran had not come for his usual appointment. Ryu was worried and went around to his house in the middle of the morning. He was not there. Everyone was informed. About the 11 o'clock, Rembert came to the hospital to tell the doctor that he had seen Grand wandering around the streets, and a strange look on his face. He had vanished from sight. The doctor and True set off by car to look for him. At noon, the icy weather, Ryu got out of his car when he saw Grand in the distance, almost glued to the shop window and full of circulatory sculpted wooden toys. Tears were running away with the steady stream down the old civil servant's face. And these tears were devastating for Ryu because he understood them and he felt a lump in the back of his throat. He too recalled the unfortunate man's engagement in the front shop and the Christmas scene, and Janine leaning towards him to say that how happy she was. From the depths of the long past, and the very heart of this madness, Janine's fresh voice was speaking to Grand. That was for sure. Ryu knew that the old man was thinking about the moment as he wept, as he thought at the same time, and this wood without love was dead in like a dead world, and that there was always come a time when the grown tired of passions and work and courage and yearns for the face of another human being to wander the affectionate heart.